Hey, shalom, shalom. Ha'ay rab tawab la atam za'ak yakam yawam manor chagadol Charlotte, which is good evening. This is your brother Yawan from the GMS camp in Charlotte. Na chamatam kaya ha malakat hashemayim kwara repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Call halayim la awnaw Yahweh bahasham Yahweh shai bahasham rocha hakwadash wa mashana la zakonim na wa malakim shor chagadol, which is all praises to our Father Yahweh, which means he exists, Bahasham, in the name Yahweh Shai, he delivers, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Zatahoyam, this is Psalms chapter 104 and verse 3. And it says, I'm going to start from verse 1. It says, bless the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, O my soul, O Lord, my power, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. All right, and ultimately, most recently, all right, Esau has ultimately had to come out and say, okay, he went from calling the chariots UFOs, which stood for unidentified flying objects, to now they're called UAPs for I believe it's unknown aerial phenomenon. You see, which that's ultimately his way of he had to label the chariots something. You see, because if he didn't say anything, it would make it seem as if he was powerless, which he really is powerless, you see. But in his society, by him naming the chariots of the Lord, all right, ultimately it makes the people less weary, so to speak, but again, just going into the chariots, all right, just going into this lesson, the chariots, just going into some edification on the chariots. All right, the chariots are ultimately at times, cloak themselves as clouds. All right, which that's why it says, who maketh the clouds his chariot. All right, sometimes in the daytime, they'll fly and they reveal themselves. All right, which those are our brothers, the angels, all right, in those ships, you see. But again, the clouds sometimes cloak themselves as, the chariots sometimes are cloaked as clouds. All right, sometimes at night, that'd be twinkling as a star. All right, or they twinkle and they appear to someone's eyes without understanding. They'll think that they're stars, you see. But stars, they're like a stale light. You see, the chariots, they twinkle, they kind of flash, But again, just going into the chariots, sometimes again, they look like stars, but again, they are the chariots of the Lord. And I just wanted to go into some edification on those. All right, so I'm going to get Yashaya Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 20, and it says, come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment, until the indignation be overpassed. You see, so ultimately, the Lord is in the process of judging the heathen, you see, which it starts with this truth, you see. And in the end, all right, of Esau's hegemony and his rulership, all right, the different places where he's ruling is going to be nuked, you see. And in that process, all right, as the nukes are coming down, the elect is going to be beamed up into the chariots. All right, going into this verse right here, Isaiah 26 and 20 says, come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment, until the indignation be overpassed, which the indignation goes into the anger of the Lord, a righteous anger, you see, because the Lord is essentially judging the heathen hegemonies. All right, starting with Esau, Edom. All right, let's get this. Zachariah, this is Zechariah chapter 5. We'll start at verse 1. It says, then, which it says the flying scroll, and it says, then I turned and lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. All right, which those rolls go into, the chariots. I'm gonna get this word for roll. Which the roll it says book or writing, but this scroll right here, all right, it's synonymous with the roll. You see where it says magala, which it comes from galol, which means it says roll up. Is pretty much it says to run down. I'm gonna go back. When you look at the roll like a scroll, it pretty that circular shape. All right, ultimately is a lot of times, the chariots would be like in a circular shape, you know. So going back, all right, because it's talking about those rolls are talking about the chariots, all right, which in Hebrew it would be marakab yam, all right, that would be chariots, because marakab or rakab means to ride, all right. Marakab ultimately goes in the ma is of or from. It will be of a ride. The chariots are ultimately the angels are riding in those ships. Verse 3, it says, Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. All right. And the chariots, all right, again, all right, ultimately, they represent the downfall of Esau's society, you see. So, hypothetically, because Esau, currently, he labels things that people don't understand, you see, to make it seem as if he has some type of power, you see. But if he did not do that, all right, ultimately he was seen powerless in his own society, So, contrary to the belief of the citizens and the common folk, again, the chariots represent Esau's downfall, and that's ultimately why when the chariots would zoom past the Nasafee, Esau cut it out. He'll make it seem a certain type of way to make it seem as if he ultimately is in the power seat when he's not. Again, the chariots represent his downfall. That represents the end of his rulership. All right. So, continuing on, let's get Acts chapter 1. All right, we get verse 9, and it says, And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up in a cloud. All right, going back to Taharyam 104 and verse 3. All right, because again, the chariots cloaked themselves as clouds at times. And it says, And a cloud received him out of their sight. And which it says the ascension. It says, And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Yea, men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yahweh, which is taking up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. And it's the same manner, that he's going to return, you see. And we're going to get those precepts out of Waratazah. All right, let's get Yashaya Isaiah chapter 60. And we'll get verse 8, and it says, Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves to their windows? All right, again, the chariots fly as clouds, or they cloak themselves as clouds. All right. So moving on, let's get we'll get Yashaya Isaiah chapter 66. We'll get verse 15, and it says, For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. You see, so as the nukes are pelting this place, all right, essentially the chariots is going to be zapping, all right, as pursuant to 2nd Ezra 13th chapter. All right, let's get that as well. Let's go to let's actually get this first. Let's get Revelation chapter 1, and we'll get verse 7. And because again it said that the Lord Yahweh went up into a chariot, you see, so he's going to return in the same manner. All right, this is Revelation chapter 1 and verse 7. It says, Behold, he cometh with clouds, all right, the chariots, and every eye shall see him, because he's going to come on that Father's ship. It says, and they also which pierced him, all right, those that was in the time, of Yahweh Shai when he was crucified, they essentially are going to see him, and it's going to be brought back into their remembrance that they ultimately did that. All right, and they're going to receive of their judgment as well. And it says that all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so, Aman. All right, now let's get this account right here. This is Second Isaiah, chapter 13. All right, and we'll get verse 5, and it says, and after this I beheld. I'll start from verse 3. I'll start from verse 1. All right. And it says, and it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. All right. Which, the heathen nations are ultimately going to try to make war against the Lord Yahweh Shai. And it says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, the Father's ship, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. All right, ultimately going into the heathen, you see, because they're gonna have the spirit of fear, you see, but the Lord gonna put the spirit on them to essentially, or they're gonna be in the mindset ultimately of being in fear, you see, but the Lord gonna put a spirit on them to fight, So it says, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. You see, and ultimately, Ezra received, a revelation of that, so that made him afraid. You see, because the Lord is coming back, going back to Isaiah 66, Isaiah 63. Let's get that too. All right, this is Yashaya, Isaiah chapter 63 and verse 1. It says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? All right, because ultimately it says, who is it that cometh from Edom? You see, because the Lord, the scriptures say, the Lord is coming to wound the heads over many countries. All right, roughly paraphrasing, you see. So Esau, Edom, all right, is ruling currently, all right, in the world. You see, so the Lord is essentially going to wound the heads over the Edomites, all right, and the heathen. You see, but specifically going into Isaiah 63, all right, Edom. You see, then it's also going to be some that's confederate with Edom that's going to receive of judgment as well. You see, but again, Esau, Edom is in rulership. You see, so it says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel. You see, because the Lord came lowly, he came humbly, he came meek. He was on the ass's colt. You see, so he's going to come back very majestically. All right. So it says, traveling in the greatness of his strength, I that speak in righteousness I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? You see, and those that tread in the wine fat, those that stomp grapes, are essentially, they have a lot of, it looks like the blood of the grape. You see, so it's a metaphor for how much, destruction that the Lord is going to bring. It says, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. So that's going to come from the intense laser beams from the ships. You see? So we'll get one more. All right, and that'll be it. This is Revelation chapter 11. We'll get verse 12, and it says, And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven, and a cloud and their enemies beheld them. That's that wisdom of Solomon. You see, because ultimately, the enemies of the elect, all right, ultimately is going to see going to see us, beamed up in them ships. All right, the chariots, Adam Tazai, we continue until the end, you see, but the elect is going to be beamed up, all right, in those ships. All right, as the destruction from the ICBMs is taking place, it's going to happen simultaneously, you see. So I just want to go into that, some edification on Ayol Marakabyam, all right, or Salak, Ayol Ha Marakabyam. Ayol is on, Ha Marakabyam is the chariots. All right, just wanted to go into some edification on the chariots. Adonai Tazaza Banaya Pa, Lord's Wood, that was a beautiful edification through the Spirit. Wa Adonai Tazah Adam Yash Layla Tawab, Lord's will. You have a good night. Wa Shalom Lakam, which is peace unto you all. A Shalom.